Now where are we going now? To the hits?
A pro, yeah. Hit.
Pro. Well, I would say all the stuff we just talked about on the age group and adaptive, I told directly to Don Fall, so nobody blow him up, please, or start blowing up
Mhm.
CrossFit like they haven't heard this. He's heard it.
Yeah, of
But
course.
that's actually a pro. He was really visible at this event.
Mhm.
Like I ran into him multiple times, and I don't mean like I didn't have any behind the scenes access, any kind of special access this time. I was just out in the crowds.
Cahoots pass.
No cahoots pass whatsoever. And I ran into him right out in the middle of Vendor Village one day, sitting there literally just watching the sport
Mm,
and ran into him there. I did get invited to a charity cocktail thing that Forging Youth Resilience invited me to, and he was at that with Nicole Carroll. And
great.
so I had a chance to chat with him there. And then that's one of the place I saw him. I forget where, but my point is he was like really visible and out amongst the crowd. And I think that's really, really cool, to get direct feedback from affiliate owners and members and
Yep.
vendors and just be willing to take it. And to his credit, dude is a really good listener, which I don't think is unique to that position, but he seems to actually take it in. Often when I talk to people in his position, and it's actually pretty often in my banking role, that it feels like they're looking through you. And
Mm.
in his case, I think he's actually taking it in and processing, all right, is this something I should do something with, or is this just fully complaining?
Mhm.
I think he's actually, like, trying to figure it out, and I
Yeah,
like that about him, and I just appreciated that he was actually there being a part of the process.
yeah,
And then I heard some stories of him doing some workouts, like, joining actual workouts and how
yeah.
hard I said this to him once, I'm like, "Dude, I heard you were doing handstand walks," and he laughed, and he was telling me the story, and I'm like, "No, no, you don't understand. I heard you worked really hard, and that's cool."
Yeah.
Like, that's really cool to think he's actually trying to learn like the rest of us,
Yes,
and
he
I love
had
that.
he had Chris Hinshaw critique his running form live in front of people.
Yeah, I would not run in front of Chris Henshaw if you paid me money. I'd be like,
Oh,
I'm good, Chris. I am good with
all
my meteoric
set.
form." Yeah, it was
All
cool.
set. We gotta get him back on the show because that man, I could listen to him talk just for days straight.
Who,
Like
Henshaw?
he's Hinshaw.
Okay.
He's
Yeah,
full of stories. I mean, we can get Don back on the show too.
yeah.
Don's cool. But just Chris Hinshaw is like
Oh, that
he's
guy.
so smart
Right.
and he's so like just the way his brain works is so unique and he's full of stories. He knows the athletes so well and he takes to heart every single relationship that he has with an athlete. It's like they're all his children. Like he cares so much about all of them and the decisions they make in the workouts, in the tests, in the at the games, like in the competition. Like he just and everyone blows him up.
Right.
Anytime, like even if you don't work with him, if you worked with him once like 10 years ago and there's some test that you need to do, everyone's like texting him like, "Hey Chris, how do you think I should do with this?"
Right.
And he'll answer everyone all the time. He's just the best. We did an episode with him like 150 years ago. If you didn't listen to it, you should go back and listen to
No.
it.
Invite him back on. I
We
don't
should
really
do
know
it.
him that well. I saw him a couple of times. I didn't really talk to him. I don't really know him that well. He's your friend, not mine.
Yeah.
But yeah, invite him on. It'd be fun.
He's not your friend. He's n
He seems like a good dude for sure.
Mhm.
All right, next we're going back to misses.
Okay.
You got to know where I'm going next.
If the first one was not streaming age groups, oh, I know which one you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the 5K, quote unquote. Oh my God, sweet mother of God. How do you not measure the 5K properly? I cannot wrap my brain around. I realize maybe it's an honest mistake. And I'm gonna say up front because people give me shit about this. It did not affect the outcome of anything. I
Right.
fully agree with that. Did not change who won, did not change who lost, didn't change anything in the sport of CrossFit. My complaint with it is that we advertise this thing as a cross country 5K, which is the most standardized race on the planet. You know how many 5Ks I've been to, Nikki? Mira ran cross country for years. I've been to so many freaking 5Ks in my life. I couldn't even tell you how many. I got medals on the wall in my garage from them. We advertised this thing on Runner's World that we're doing it or PR'd it out there. And then we just did 5,000 yards instead. It's the most cross-fittingly CrossFit mistake we could make. That part I kinda love because it gives me meme material for days. It just drove me crazy, but
I don't know. I'm sorry. Maybe I should be more outraged about this than I am, but I just don't think it's that big of a deal.
I
I
don't think it's a
just
big
don't.
deal.
I
I
just
don't think
think
it's a big deal in the idea of the sport. I think it's a big deal in the fact that we promote this. Look how great our people are, and then when you actually do the math on it, they're great, but they're average runners, as they should
I ha
be. They're CrossFitters.
I haven't seen anything that said, "Look at this athlete's time, what an amazing 5K." I have
When
not seen.
we first put them out, it's like, "Hey, look, Emily Roth did 17.5 minute. Roman did 16:57," but
Well,
when you do the math on it, he didn't. Like,
but
we're
I didn't see any of, like, I didn't never saw CrossFit be like, "Oh my god, look at Emily Rolf's perfect 5K in 17 point whatever." Like, I'm sorry, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think we had a live course with the very specific area that we had in and around the Coliseum with lots of different terrain and up and down, and I think when it was measured out, it was about 5K, and so they called the event
well, it was
5K.
not about 5K, it was 5,000 yards. So it's like they missed an entire lap, Nick. They missed 400 meters. It's not about a 5K. It wasn't even close to a 5K. That's the point. Like, again, it doesn't change the
Eh.
outcome of the race. I just think if you're gonna go on the at our Super Bowl event, which is what this is the biggest event we're gonna do all year long. And you say part of the test of fitness of the fittest on earth. That's the title we give these people is we're gonna give them the same standardized race that everybody's grandma runs a turkey trot. At
Okay.
the same distance that you and like, I know my 5K time. Do you know your 5K time?
Yeah,
Probably. Right.
yeah.
All right. Now you can compare yourself to Emily, but you
So,
can't.
I
She
see where
ran
you're
400
coming from
meters
with that.
less than you. That's my point.
I see where you're coming from with that. For me, I didn't get the vibe that CrossFit was like, "We're gonna do this exact distance because every single other person at the turkey trot does it." What I got out of that test was, we are gonna make them run. To be good at CrossFit, you need to run, and we are going to make them change elevation, and we are going to make them change terrain, and we are going to make them deal with running in and out of the crowd, and we're gonna make them do all the stuff that is the course of the dog park.
Yeah.
And
If we had
nowhere
advertised it
in
that way,
that
it would have been
n
great.
nowhere in that was I like, "Oh, my 5K time will definitely be comparable to that," because that's a very specific event at a specific location and a specific test of fitness.
As
So,
soon
it
as I
just
saw the
to
advertising, I started putting my scores up. They go, "We're doing a 5K." I'm like, "Great. I know my 5K time. Now I know how much faster Pat Vellner is than me," which is pretty fast, by the way.
Yeah, which is super
A
fast.
lot faster for the record.
I can see where you're coming from with that. I just don't share the same sentiment. I just don't.
Well, I
I just
just
don't think
like
of all the things that we could, and I gripe about things. I have gripes. I have, what are we calling them? Misses.
misses.
That one, I'm just kinda like, I don't really
Maybe I'm
think it's
just a
that
little
big of a
salty
deal. I
because
just don't.
I feel like I was the recipient of the 10,000 "Bring Dave back" comments, and then Dave's back for the biggest event, and they can't break out a freaking yardstick and figure this thing out. Like, well, actually, that's what they use as yardstick, not they
I
didn't
would
measure in
actually
meters,
I would
you
actually
know?
love. I don't they've never, like, CrossFit itself has not really commented on the distance, right? Like, I don't know.
They will. Now, don't get me wrong. I fully believe Dave would take full accountability. I'm not saying that they're gonna thumb their nose at this and go, "Oh, no big deal." I just think it's our biggest stage and, quite literally brought in Runner's World to say we're doing this, and we called it a 5K. If we had done what you said, I'd have 0 problems. If we'd only called it a cross country run, or even if we called it a turkey trot, just don't put 5K behind it. It could have
But
been
and
an undisclosed distance. I would have been great with that. We're just gonna make them run and see how they do. That would have been great too.
I don't know. I to I'm so sorry. I just don't think it's that big of a deal. I think that if they put out the whole thing and they were like, "You gotta run to be good at CrossFit." What's the distance? A little less than 5K. Okay.
I think
I just
here's what's all right. Well, when I do Murph next year, I'm gonna do half mile increments. You tell me if it's a big deal or not.
I
It's a
just don't
spec
think that's
it's a
the
s
same thing. I don't.
it's absolutely the same thing. By the way, the Helen 400-meter runs were not 400 meters.
Yeah.
And and
Is
this
your run at your gym a perfect 400 meters? Because it's
I
not at my gym.
I'm not running at the CrossFit Games.
I just
We're doing prescribed workouts, and 5K is the most standardized run in all of running. Like,
I agree.
it's like
I
everybody
agree.
does them, and just don't advertise it that way. That's the point. Like, don't call them 400 meters at the games if they're not 400 meters. Call them laps. Call them something else other than what they are. Because to your point, is it like we're doing these workouts in our gym, and we want to be able to have the same experience and be able to do the same comparison to everyone else. It's like, I don't know, I could give you 100 analogies. I guess my point is that on the biggest stage on the planet, do what you say you're gonna do.
Yeah,
Don't
I see where you're coming from with that. I do. It just doesn't really upset me that much where I'm like, "Yeah, I guess
I'm
it should
not
have been longer, or they should have said, like, it's a little under 5K, but okay."
I wouldn't say I'm upset. I don't think that's the right way to characterize it. I'm saying this is our Super Bowl event and details matter. Like the details absolutely matter. Otherwise, where else can we start changing them? 21-15-9 now becomes 20-18-8. Like,
Yeah, that feels like a stretch to me. It's okay
no,
if
I'm
we disagree.
no, I'm not. That's my point is, it's like, I think if you're going to say you're doing something, do it. And particularly if you're doing an event that falls outside of CrossFit, like a 5K is not a traditional CrossFit thing. Follow me? Like, we've never done to my knowledge, they've never done a 5K at the CrossFit Games ever, right?
The ranch run was 6K? 5K
Alright,
is actually one of the all-time most programmed workouts on .com.
okay, then it should be 5K. That's the point. If it's that standardized, it should actually be 5K. That's why I'm saying it's a huge miss. Like, how do you miss something as simple as measuring?
I don't
And
know. I don't know if they missed it in measuring or if they, like, went out and measured the
they
course.
did 5,000 yards.
Eh,
That's the exact distance it
you
came
think
up to
that's
be.
how it I am not willing to speculate on how it happened exactly. I don't know if they mismeasured it or if they measured the run the way that the course is laid out in the dog park, and they came back and they were like, "It's about 5K, so let's call this the
They measured
best
5,000
20-minute
yards.
5K."
That's exactly what it came out to be.
Either way,
I'm just
I have
I
other misses that are grinding my gears more than this
Oh,
one,
I
but
I
that's
have
just me.
plenty.
That's just me.
I just think it's, it's not that different for me than, when we did the first week of the open and they can't count kilograms either. And whose bar was it? Laura's bar, maybe, that didn't have enough weight on it?
Or Gabby's? I can't remember.
I forget. It's just like when you're on your biggest stage, like math matters. That's all I'm saying.
I think
Get
we
the
can
get
all
the
agree
math
that
right.
math matters in life.
Yeah, get the math right. That's all I'm saying. Like, get the distance right. Again, it didn't, it's not, I'm not salty about it. Like, it didn't affect the outcome, nor should it. Like, is a distance, whether they're running 5K, 6K, 8K, like the fittest is going to pull that one out. And I think everybody looks back on it and goes, yeah, the fastest people won that one.